Thank you very much, Home Office, and thank you very much, Callum. Let's move on to the next segment. So, we've spoken quite a lot recently about all of the continuous attacks that are going on against farmers. Generally speaking, we're talking about the UK, but you can also look at the US, where certain billionaires who will not be named have bought up miles and miles and miles of farmland. In Ireland, we've got the completely unnecessary cow cull that might be going on. And in England, there's just continuous attacks against farmers being able to actually do their job and seemingly a concerted effort to push them off of their own farmland so that we can get diverse farmers in, which, works so well in South Africa, Zimbabwe. Every single time it happens, every single time it's implemented, it's been no problem. Everything's gone great. So I can't wait for it to happen here. Australia.
As you may know, YouTube arbitrarily demonetized our channel, so I'd like to thank Lotus.com's first sponsor, Atlas VPN, for supporting us and providing a service that is actually useful as we move into our new cyberpunk dystopia. Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month, with 3 months extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the description to sign up. You'll be liberated from region locks, so you can watch streaming content from anywhere in the world, but I think more importantly is that it masks your IP. Firstly, this prevents us from being spied upon by the various state dragnets. We find it important that it keeps your Google searches private, which prevents them from tailoring the results based on your past searches, which prevents them from hiding information because they've built up a profile against us. It also protects you from being the target of malicious ads, trackers, and malware, and informs you when someone is trying to steal your data. There has been a spate of people getting their accounts hacked recently, and Atlas VPN helps protect against that. Atlas VPN is also easy to install. Even I could do it without assistance. What you're seeing now is the footage I recorded of myself installing the thing. Once you're logged in, you can see that you just need to click on the location that you want to tell the internet where you want to be from, and you're all set. To repeat then, Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month with a 3-month extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the video description to sign up, and remember, supporting them is supporting us, so please do check them out.
Or more specifically, West Australia has decided that they, in the name of diversity, in the name of protecting certain people's cultural heritage, also want to destroy farming and agriculture in that particular state. And to be clear, because I know some people have questioned our ability to cover Australia in the past without mentioning that it's made up of various states, as far as I'm aware, this is something specific to West Australia. So Queensland, New South Wales, Northern Territories, this isn't happening there. You all right?
Yeah, I just love the idea that every time this piece of legislation or type of legislation comes up, I want to see the guy in the legislature give the speech and then just end it with "God bless Mugabe."
Might as well. We'll get to some of the questionable statements made by West Australian government officials in a little bit, and it might as well be close enough to that. But on the website, we've got some more excellent videos out recently, including a premium epochs where Bo spoke to. Go up. I've forgotten who he spoke to. Connor, sorry Connor, about Lucky Luciano, one of the original gangsters, and I thought it would be appropriate to point you towards this video because it really does seem like there is going to be a lot of shaking down of West Australian farmers going on in the near future. So there's a piece of legislation that I'll direct you to in a moment. Where's it come from? Why has it happened? What's going on? So it's directed in favour of protecting Aboriginal cultural heritage sites. So this is Australian Aboriginals or Indigenous peoples, whatever you want to call, whatever the most politically correct term for them these days is. It all comes off of the back of this. So this is an article from The Guardian from 2021. The incident itself happened in 2020, was the Juukan Gorge destruction, which was an Aboriginal sacred site. It was a cave where there was evidence that 46,000 years ago somebody might have scraped his hand against the wall in here, therefore it's a sacred site. So Rio Tinto...
I do always wonder, as a sacred site, what really do you have to do to get that qualifier?
As we'll find out, asking that question is very culturally insensitive, and you should feel ashamed for asking it. So,
it's not the Stonehenge of the Aboriginals, is it?
It doesn't seem... It was just a cave. It was just a cave that had some nice iron ore in it.
Kind of embarrassing, actually. The peak of our civilization, it's a cave.
It's a cave that maybe one day had somebody scrawl a stick figure on the side of it.
I'm bigger than Terry.
There you go. That's Australian culture over there. I'm bigger than Bruce. Rio Tinto, which was a mining company, they destroyed an Aboriginal heritage site on 24th of May 2020, exactly 1 year on from the disaster in which Rio blew up the ancient rock shelters showing human occupancy dating back 46,000 years to access higher grade iron ore. West Australia's new Aboriginal Affairs Minister, Stephen Dawson, said Aboriginal heritage laws would be introduced to Parliament in the second half of 2021, which is what this legislation ended up being. The chair of the Parliamentary Committee into the Destruction of Juukan Gorge, Warren Ernst, said that the committee was considering whether traditional owners should be granted the power of veto over the destruction of cultural heritage. And if we go to the next article, we've got some more information on here. So the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act from 2021 will supersede the original Aboriginal Heritage Act from 1972. This follows 3 years of discussions with Aboriginal people, industry experts, and the larger Western Australian community. The Act will seek to provide better recognition and conservation by placing traditional owners, in nice capital letters there, so you know that they're more important than you, at the centre of the decision-making process about heritage management. One of the key changes to be made aware of is a new broader definition of Aboriginal cultural heritage under Section 12 of the Act. And this is where it gets fun. This is where you're going to have to hold back laughter here because it is so typical of the absolute throw S at the wall and see what sticks approach of how they legislate all of this stuff. Are you ready?
All right.
So, it now includes cultural landscapes and intangible elements that are important to Aboriginal people. Practically, heritage surveys completed prior to the 21st of December 2021 will need to be reviewed to ensure that they consider intangible elements. So, the air here is sacred, essentially. There's some magic in the air around here, therefore you can't do anything to it.
Okay.
And this will get... I don't see any way in which this could be abused. Do you? On 19th of May 2023, the code was gazetted. I assume that's an Australian term for, just finally completed. And the Act will come into full effect from the 1st of July 2023. However, still to be released are guidelines in relation to surveys and investigations for this Act. So watch this space. And that I did. And this is where I got the actual information regarding this from. This is where I saw that this was happening in the first place, was this next link here, which was a Mr. Bogan, who I know online.
Fantastic name.
He's at Boganpilled. I'd recommend giving him a follow. He posted this, and I've spoken to him. And I just want to, before I go any further, actually, do you know anything about Australian Aboriginals?
I try not to.
They're an interesting people. For instance, I've spoken to Mr. Bogan, and he does a lot of agricultural and labour work in West Australia. So this will be affecting him directly. The Aboriginal people, when you see them on television and such, they will put the absolute best of the best representatives of the community up. They are very well known for their incredible rates of alcoholism. Like, all the actual anecdotal testimony that I've ever heard from Australian people who get into regular contact with them is you never see them, A, working a job, or B, without a bottle of beer in their hand from very young ages, to the point where a heavy percentage of them are born with fetal alcohol syndrome. 2, they sniff petrol to get high a lot. So
You can get high from sniffing petrol?
yes, to the point where they had to introduce a non-sniffable type of petrol into Australia to prevent it from being sniffed. Now, Mr. Bogan, he's operating at the moment at a site that's, I think, across...
He sells alcohol and petrol, does he?
No, but he could make a killing if he did, I tell you that. So what he's doing at the moment, he's working at a site opposite from an Aboriginal cultural heritage site. So what they've had to do is put special precaution. It's like, when gypsies are in your area and you've got to kind of lock everything down, nail everything down, because otherwise they will steal it. And if you have got everything nailed down, they'll probably just nick the screws off of everything anyway. It's kind of like that. They've got to have special precautions to A, make sure all the petrol they have on site isn't stolen overnight while they're all asleep, and B, to make sure that when they get back to their cars every morning that they've not nicked the tyres off it. He says so far nothing has been stolen. Nothing like petrol or tyres have been stolen, but they have nicked the hub filler caps off of all the tyres, I think. The hub caps off the tyres is what he told me.
I mean, this is kind of an international meme at this point, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, especially with the Americans and the Europeans, where it's just like...
We need to protect the rights and culture of the petrol sniffers.
Well, it's more this noble savage myth. Like, the idea that, like, the more barbaric people, let's say. So it could be the Indians in the United States, of course, but also the Roma in Europe. And you've seen like the footage I've shown you, the ones in Slovakia,
Yes.
where
yes,
they tried
you've
to
shown
put
me.
them all in big tenements in Slovakia under
doesn't go
communism.
well.
Didn't work.
Nope.
Didn't work. And it's just like you don't seem to realize the differences until you live right next door to someone like.
Yeah,
of,
well, I've looked into a bit of it myself. I should have included the article, actually. There's a New York Times article talking about how in Australia, in the Northern Territories, I think there was an area called Alice Springs, which has a majority Aboriginal population. It's something like 60,000 of them live there.
They'll just live with the nature and
They
eat grass and.
No, they had to...
That's what I mean. It's the delusion.
They all just sort of like scour the streets looking for booze, and they have to have laws that were in place for 15 years to make it illegal to sell beer to Aboriginals because of the rates of domestic violence and sexual abuse that were going on. And then they decided, you know what? This is a really horribly racist thing that we've done here. So what we're going to do, we're going to lift the... 6 months later, they get the restrictions straight back up because violent crime rates as a result of alcohol abuse skyrocketed by upwards of 50% immediately the second it was done. Even Aboriginal community leaders were saying, this is a terrible idea. Don't do this. You know what's going to happen if you do this. And the Australians were like, well, we're not bloody racist, are we? And then they turn around and go, I guess we are.
The Aboriginals are like, could you please be?
Could you please be racist? Please just be a bit more racist. So Mr. Bogan put this up and he said, from 1st of July in Western Australia, it's going to be practically illegal for an agricultural landowner to be productive on his own property without pre-approval from an unelected, racially selected committee of Aboriginal descent. So this act is going to put together a committee of Aboriginal people who are going to be able to look at a site that you're going to be having agricultural labour and farm work done on, and they get to tell you whether it is, whether it's actually a heritage site, whether it's a sacred site, whether there are intangible elements to this site. If you could scroll down and click on the image in this second tweet for me here. So it asks a question in this bit that that you may want to ask, which is, how do I know if what they find really is culturally important? The answer: that's a culturally insensitive question. Aboriginal people are not required to disclose culturally sensitive information. If they say it's important, which is the legislative government version of, it's not my job to educate you. Like that. That's what that is. How do I know that the site has not very recently become culturally significant? That question is a euphemism for how do I know if they're making it up? Another culturally insensitive question. It does not matter if it has. Cultural heritage can change over time. If they just decide today,
your house, mate.
I had a
cultural heritage of us, mate.
No. So you go to the site and you say you speak to the cultural people and they go like, sorry, this is now culturally sensitive. This is a now culturally significant area. How? Well, my old cousin, he came here and he sniffed a bunch of petrol, got really high, had a magical experience. It's sacred now.
Your wife's clothes, mate. Yeah, they're also ours.
It's so ridiculous.
Undress her, would you?
Yeah, if you scroll down even more to this next one, to the last one in this little thread here. So to top it all off, it will cost 5,000 Australian dollars minimum to direct one of these cultural surveys. And this is how much these F-wits are going to earn just for conducting them. So who gets paid and at what rates? COO, $160 to $240 per hour. Chief Executive Offer, $240 to $280 per hour. Aboriginal Consultant, $80 to $120 per hour. Senior Aboriginal Consultant, $120 to $160 per hour. And it goes on. It's absolutely ridiculous. How is it...
Plus 20% tip.
Yep, plus 20% tip. Remember to tip as you finish. It's ridiculous. How is this not going to be abused by this new committee who are just going to turn around and say everything now is culturally significant to us so that we can charge exorbitant fees to be able to go over, waste as much time as possible.
It's a good mug, mate. Yeah, it's culturally significant.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. And in the just to fact check this, because I saw some people in the comments of this going, "Is this legit?" Well, here's a more official source from a local regional newspaper talking about this, where they just say, "What will it cost to do a survey?" Depends, but if it's a simple survey and nothing is found, then the explorers have worked on a $5,000 as minimum, but it can quickly rise to tens of thousands as it gets more complicated, or you are not suitably respectful. What does that mean?
If you don't want to give me 10 grand, you're a bigot.
If you don't give me that booze, mate, you've not been suitably respectful. I mean, honestly, what are the fines for destroying a heritage site? Up to $10 million for a company or $1 million for an individual, and an imprisonment of 5 years for serious harm, down to $25,000 and $250,000 for a minor harm to a site. For failing to report a site, the fine is $20,000 for individuals and $100,000 for companies. This is just an absolute racket. This is a shakedown scheme done on behalf of Aboriginal people, implemented and legislated by the West Australian government, because otherwise companies might accidentally blow up a cave that might have one day, thousands and thousands of years ago, had someone scrawl a painting on the side of a cave. Absolutely ridiculous. I understand that people want to maintain the cultural significance for indigenous peoples of particular countries. I don't think that in and of itself is something bad that people might want to do. These people exist, and you could argue that they deserve some respect if they're from that country originally, but this is not the way to do it. This is absolutely not the way to do it. Yeah, surely you've got something more culturally significant than a cave, but then again, I guess we don't get to say that because that's culturally insensitive. They get to decide. This rock, I assume, culturally sensitive. I mean, God, why was this image chosen, actually? This is very confusing.
I mean, you are right, though. The imagery
is this the Aboriginal committee member, as you're about to say, nah, I think you're making it up, mate, and he's got the rock in his hand.
I've got the Rock of Destiny here, and you've got your car.
Oh, my God. What were you about to say?
It's just the imagery is ridiculous.
It is stupid, and understandably, the actual farmers in the area not too happy about it in the next article. So they are very upset about it. The West Australian farmers are furious, and and they fear the new legislation will hold them to ransom. I mean, what would give you that impression? Let's read through a bit of this. West Australian Farmers President John Hassel said landowners fear the open-ended system could be abused. I think that's a pretty reasonable fear to have. There wouldn't be a grower in the state who doesn't want to protect Aboriginal cultural heritage, he said. And to be fair, when you actually listen to Australian people talk about the Aboriginal peoples, it's not like they're horribly insensitive to them. It's not like they hate them. They want to look after them.
It's not like when they talk about us.
Yeah, exactly. They want to actually look after them, but this is not the way to do it. The challenge we've got is that you can see cultural heritage when it's a burial site or meeting place, but you can't see this spiritual stuff. That's subject to change. You can't do a survey on your place and have it marked out forever after, because someone can come along later and say that this is a spiritual place. He said that people were really worried that they could carry out normal work on the property and later be deemed to have damaged something that's not able to be seen. You've damaged the vibes, bro. That's the extent of what I'm seeing here. Sorry, this has got sacred vibes, and I've done a vibe check, and you've damaged the vibes. That's going to be $10,000 dues, mate. I mean, seriously.
What's that, Rock of Destiny? Oh, there's vibes here, is there?
Sacred vibes. Cool, blimey.
Just like the white people have just dressed up as Aboriginals as well. They're the ones getting paid to do this.
That'd be brilliant. So,
what are you going to do?
I don't know.
They've just got one of those like old.
To be fair, would that fall under this as well? Sorry, are you actually culturally insensitive, mate? Not suitably respectful?
Why? I don't believe you, sir. Why? Well, you've got a Teletubby that's speaking to you in the ear, deciding you what's sacred.
You keep sniffing petrol in between every sentence and telling me how sacred it all is. Oh God, Mr. Hassel.
Bill Gates buying new farmland.
He said farmers were... I'm sorry, I've just got a mental image now of Bill Gates dressed as an Aboriginal. sniffing petrol. Mr. Hassel said farmers were concerned about the potential for the scheme to become a shakedown racket. I think farmers are definitely worried about that being the case, continually on the grip, getting approved for every time they want to do something. There are people who are worried that they're going to get fined for doing things that are just normal farm business, because this can also come under things just as simple as, in Clarkson's farm, he just wanted to get a farm track, and the local council said no. This could come down to as simple as, I want a fence. I want a fence on my land. Ooh, that fence might break the vibes, so not so sure about that. There are around 5,200 farmers in Western Australia, running the gamut from grain and livestock to horticulture. Hassel said that the new laws were introduced in a knee-jerk reaction to the destruction of the Juukan Gorge by mining giant Rio Tinto in 2020. Juukan Gorge was approved knowing full well that it was a heritage site in 2013, and it wasn't until blowing it up in 2020 that there was a massive community outrage. So The work that Rio Tinto had done in 2020 had already been improved at that point for 7 years. And the reason why the decision might have changed, or the feelings around it might have changed, are elucidated here. The only difference is that in 2013, there was 10,000 years of Australian culture here. Now, all of a sudden, it's 65,000 years. I don't mind what it is as long as it's consistent and not bull dust. So, when we say that they could just make it up, we already have an example seemingly here. That the second it gets blown up or something gets done to it, all of a sudden, oh, sorry, just added an extra, I forgot to carry the one. That's an extra 55,000 years of agricultural history, Australian cultural history here. That'll be millions of dollars in compensation, please. Absolutely ridiculous. An e-petition to state parliament calling for laws to be delayed for at least 6 months has attained nearly 17,000 signatures in less than a week. The petition, sponsored by Mr. Seabrook and Liberal MLLC Neil Thompson, states that the incomplete nature of the implementation of the laws is imposing an extreme level of uncertainty on Western Australian landowners, business owners and individuals. Spokesman for the West Australian Aboriginal Affairs Minister Tony Booty said that the National Indigenous Times this week that the state government had no plans to delay the implementation, and we can get some more info in this last article that I've got here, because it's absolutely ridiculous, some of the money and some of the conditions we're talking about. So one chief executive of a junior critical mineral player who spoke on condition of anonymity, citing the sensitivity of the issue, said his company had paid nearly $200,000 for an Aboriginal heritage survey, and that heritage-related costs now represented close to 1/3 of the price tag attached to drilling an exploration hole. He warned that the situation would worsen once the new Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act came into force, making mining and farming slower and costlier. So they already have these kinds of surveys taking place that already cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for people conducting them. This will make it worse and make them more expensive and make them down to the most minute things that you might want to do on your land. So more than 450 people attended a forum hosted by the Association of Mining and Exploration Companies with officials from the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage in Perth. There were 170 questions from the floor and only enough time to deal with about 30 of them. In what was described as a farcical scene, one mining executive asked whether planting a tree near the Swan River in Perth would require a site inspection by traditional owners and the preparation of a heritage management plan. It would depend on the size of the tree, officials replied. What am I supposed to do with that?
The tree is too big. It has destroyed the great spirit.
It has destroyed the great
Give me 20
vibe.
grand.
Yeah, 20 grand, please. I mean, seriously. But Aboriginal Affairs Minister Tony Booty has accused farmers and other critics of the regime of scaremongering. Roger Cook, the new Premier, accused the coalition of dog whistling and being on the wrong side of history when it unsuccessfully moved for a 6-month delay. So that's what you're going to get here. You're going to get Australian agriculture and farming absolutely decimated, while the people pushing these laws through, because it was fast-tracked through Parliament at the end of 2021 and had over 150 amendments done to it after it had already been agreed to, because it was done that hastily and that terribly. And then you're going to have people complaining about it. It's going to destroy agriculture and farming in Australia, and then you're just going to have your politicians turning around and go, yeah, well, at least I'm on the right side of history.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Symposium series, this episode on personal autonomy. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.